No stairway. Denied.
Ancient Chinese secret.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is the 25th of September. And what does that make 3 days to, John Combest?
It doesn't make 3 days to, but it makes 3 months until Christmas.
You're right. I'm sorry. 3 months till Christmas. Yes. That is John
Have
Combest.
you decided what you're going to get me, Brad?
I have. Matter of fact, I'll give you a preview of it. I did a promo for you yesterday.
Oh, wow. I think today, as a 3 months until Christmas gift, you should reveal more details about your most recent health issue, Brad. I think listeners, I shouldn't project here. I would love to hear what's going on, and I don't know if you want to share it on the air or not, but I would love to hear it.
Okay, John, first off, let me give some background for those people who don't know what we're talking about. Every year, hold on a minute. Every year, the Dave Sinclair Otto family, and this is truly his family members, put together a PSA screening. If you don't know what that's all about, ladies have mammograms and these pap smears for breast cancer and cervical cancer. Men have a propensity to have prostate cancer. So every year they do a screening, and essentially it's a simple blood test. I've done it for, 10, 11 years. I went September 3rd, had my blood drawn. As a matter of fact, John went last Wednesday. Is it too early to see if you got your letter in the mail yet, John?
It is too early because I have not.
Okay.
And I'm not really relying on the U.S. postal system to be quick, but I have not yet gotten my results back.
So my update is, normally I get a very low reading. I get a nice little letter from the Urology of St. Louis people that do the testing, and it says, hey, everything's fine, check again next year. This year, not so good. I got a phone call. Essentially, they said they wanted to see me, and I go, when? They said tomorrow. That was a week ago Monday, not this past Monday, a week ago Monday. I met with a nice doctor, Christopher Jager, on Tuesday, week ago Tuesday. They did a blood draw on me. And on Friday, honestly, not really wild about this, I got more bad news that not only was the test not lower, it was higher. So that leads me to the next step, and quite honestly, I know what a couple of the next steps are, and I'm not really wild about it. So that's my deal, and it's not going well for Uncle Brad. So, I guess my 90 years
I'm sorry to hear that, Brad.
My 90 years are catching up with me. So anyway, that's the story. Okay, now on with the show. John Combest every single day puts together this great list of all sorts of important things you should know about. Go on the state of Missouri. He does dozens of items on johncombest.com, C-O-M-B-E-S-T, johncombest.com. But what we do is John narrows it down, or I guess the proper word nowadays that I hear all the time, he curates his many entries in today's, would that be a good term, John? Curates?
Oh, that's very NPR of you, Brad.
It's very, it's a curated selection of news stories. It's a curated selection of news stories. We bring in this guy right here. What's your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he starts it off with?
In third place,
a headline from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I first was smartened up to the story this morning by the Whispering Gallery that's put together by Jake Croson. And then I went to the Post-Dispatch, and surprisingly, the Post-Dispatch covered this story. The headline from Kurt Erickson: St. Louis County man threatens Missouri rep in spate of phone calls. Erickson goes on to report, a South St. Louis County man has been charged with felony harassment in connection with multiple threatening phone calls to a state lawmaker. County prosecutors say Michael Edward Riley on Monday made a spate of calls to the office of State Rep Brad Christ, a South St. Louis County Republican. Riley named Christ's home address, said he was going to, quote, fight fascists, and called for Christ to die during the calls. Now, Riley later on admitted to police that he had made the calls, charging documents say. They say Riley has a history of felony convictions for burglary, tampering, stealing, and unlawful possession of a firearm. Bail was set at $100,000. Brad Christ, an insurance advisor who has represented House District 98 since 2023, declined to comment on Tuesday. Erickson goes on to note that there's a continued increase in violent political rhetoric. We obviously saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. We saw what happened up in Minnesota to state-level elected officials. So, Brad, it appears as though Mr. Crest took this seriously, as he should, reported it. This guy, this man who appears to be a career criminal, admitted to what he did and was taken to the woodshed for it. Now, I'd also point out here, too, that the police report, Kurt Erickson links to the police report. I have the, I have the complaint in St. Louis County Court in front of me. The date of birth is removed here, or redacted, I should say. And according to publicly available documents on public record websites, this gentleman is 60 years old. Brad, imagine being 60 years old and calling the office of a state legislator and threatening him. Like, imagine being at that spot when you're 60 years old.
John, can I tell you the problem?
Yeah, please do.
The guy has too much time in his hands. He needs to get a hobby. He needs to go back to work. He sounds like he may be retired. Remember what I say all about these retired people?
I know how you feel about retirement, Brad.
And he doesn't have enough stuff to do. I mean, he could pick up a second shift at like one of the fast food places or something like that. Make some extra money. I mean, geez, they're paying like something.
He could go to the slider place, and then he could have Brad be all discombobulated because the menu isn't the same as White Castle. What was the name of that place, Brad?
You know what, John? It's funny you mentioned that because I can't remember. It's funny.
It's like Sally's Sliders or something like that.
It's right there at Rock Road. It's where Natural Bridge comes into the Rock Road right there.
Yeah,
just east of
that's disgusting. There's one in Civilization, too. A chick I know texted me the other day, and she was like, oh, yeah, that slider place opened up out here. I didn't care enough to follow up with her about if it was good or not.
It was disappointing to me, but that's a whole nother story. Okay.
And I should also point out that the charging documents say that this gentleman is 5'10" and 142 pounds.
Man.
Brad, it sounds like he could use a few sliders.
He's a skinny dude at 5'10", 140.
At 5'10", $142.
Man, he's wind blow hard, he just blow away, man.
You know what I heard? I heard he was a bit of a porker. And then he went to fastfoodmediet.com.
Yeah.
And he read Brad Hildebrand's approach to eating fast food. He actually heard an AI chick on Westplex 107.1 talking about it as well.
John's Mr. Endorsement there. I don't know which site is doing better or which publication is doing better, fastfoodme.com or 107 Days by Kamala Harris. I don't know which one's doing better.
Hey, we should not be so flip about these comments. The other thing about this story, Brad, so forgive me for being flip. Now, what I like about this story is Brad Christ did not have any comment. Now, not only do I like it because he's not dignifying the Post-Dispatch with a comment, but mostly because if you're Brad Christ, and I believe Brad Christ used to have a career in law enforcement. I think he used to be a cop. I'm not certain, but for some reason I think he used to be a cop. Maybe he just looks like a cop. I don't know. But I think he knows that in a situation like this, you don't want to pile on. You don't want to antagonize. And personally, when something like this happens, you don't want to come out there and just remind everyone that you're the victim. So I like the fact that Brad Christ isn't coming out here and singing a sob story and that he's taking it seriously. And I think if I'm him, I just let it breathe for a while and let the facts speak for themselves.
John, by the way, it dovetails into something I thought was sort of interesting. We've talked about this for a long time. Most of the police departments have not allowed their male police officers to sport beards. And now a lot of them do have beards, but St. Louis County Police put out a advisory saying they wish they would have all their officers shave off their beards because if you get in a tussle with any legislators or any operatives of the Democratic Party, they might grab them by the beard and throw them on the ground. So I thought
I heard that. And in fact, the police spokesman was going to be on our show yesterday at 7:45 and he flaked.
Right. Okay. Ready for number 2. Here we go.
Up a notch to number 2.
It's yours.
After so much hubbub regarding congressional maps, it just might be all for naught. I'd point folks to a story today in the Kansas City Star by Kason Bayless, who's a good reporter at the Star. He interviews top political stars, most notably your friend and mine, Greg Keller from the St. Louis area. But the Democrats signaled their approach to this, Brad, and I think Russ Carnahan might have said it best. We're not wasting any time or energy on maps that we think will never go into effect. Carnahan also goes on to say, we're staying focused on the real remedy here, and I think that's going to ultimately be the citizens deciding this. Now, I don't know if Kaysen was able to interview Russ. It's challenging, I think, for Russ to put a complete thought together, but he appears to have done that here. I don't know how he can communicate anything since they got rid of their communications director, Chelsea Rodriguez. So good luck to them for that. Anyway, more credible Democrats, or I should say Democrats who were better able to put a couple thoughts together, like Jack Cardetti was on Scott Fawn's This Week in Missouri Politics, TWMP Daily last week, and was talking about the maps, Brad. And Cardetti, who's a serious, incredible guy, says he thinks the new redistricting maps aren't even going to come into effect. He says there's just too many challenges to it, Brad. And don't forget that Democrats are trying to collect signatures to put a measure on the ballot that would block these new maps. So, Brad, if this was just Rusty Carnahan from the particular end of the Carnahan gene pool that he's from, not the same end as Tom and Robin, if Russ Carnahan was coming out and saying, we don't think there's going to be maps, then I wouldn't put much stock in it. But when a guy like Jack Cardetti and other Democrats say, I think we're going to be able to block these maps, I think they're going to be able to block the maps, Brad.
John, do you know why the Democrats aren't worried about this?
Why is that?
I will give you a scoop right here. You'll
give it to me, Brad.
You're going to be calling Mr. Fawn. You're going to be calling Mr. Fawn saying, Brad, did you hear what Brad said this morning? Here's the reason, and you just brought up the guy who's behind this, Russ Carnahan. Do you know what's
what's the deal, Brad?
Russ Carnahan is going to buy a building in Jefferson City that has 19 parking spaces and declare it the 9th congressional district and have it be all Democrats because that's going to be the Democratic headquarters. So they're going to go back to 9 districts, and that's going to be their district.
I love that.
Yes. What, did I lose you there, John?
It could be a trib debt.
Oh, you're cutting it.
No, I'm sorry, Brad. I was loading a Associated Press story,
right?
And you know how that can essentially kill your computer.
Yes.
I was going to say, I think it's a great idea for Russ. What better way to symbolize Missouri politics and federal politics than going deep into debt and spending money you don't have, like the Democrats are doing on their Capitol office.
But it's going to be the 9th district, John, and it's going to be exclusively Democrats. And what they're going to do is,
we could bring back Harold Volkmer. And he could represent that, or maybe Ike Skelton. We could bring back one of those guys.
They're going to remodel the building, and they're going to put in a shower and like little living quarters. So one person would live there, and that one person would be essentially who would decide. And when they vote on things in the 9th congressional district, it being a Democrat that lives in the congressional headquarters, it would always be a safe vote for the Dems. See, John? See, I got this all figured out. They're not dumb.
That makes a lot of. Hey, is there any truth to the rumor that Boeing is shipping Cori Bush there so that she can vote against them?
I guess. Okay. You know, somebody told me she's been working the picket lines up at Boeing. Have you heard this story?
I have. Yeah, she appeared, maybe like a month ago. At some point I saw a photo of her up there. Yeah, she's keeping her profile high. You know what I'm saying? Now, she's got to have security, Brad. We know she's got to have security. As long as taxpayers don't pay for it, I think that's okay.
Don't you find it interesting that the woman that wanted to shut down Boeing is now protesting Boeing with the workers because they're on strike? Isn't there a little bit of irony in that, to the point where on one point she's trying to get rid of their jobs, but now she's trying to help their jobs? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I think she heard that I keep telling Brad to go watch a movie called Knock Down the House, and he just refuses to watch it, but He's crabby like that.
Okay, ready for number one?
Yeah, let's do it.
The number one.
Despite all my rage, I am still just a Chinaman in a cage. That was a lyric from Smashing Pumpkins, slightly abridged. A headline from the Associated Press. Lawmakers and activists call for action after the AP reveals U.S. tech role and China's surveillance state. Brad, have you heard of these Chinese cages? Have you heard of these so-called tech cages?
I have, and it's interesting you should bring that up. Maybe we'll talk about this in C Block. I heard an interesting story involving DJI, the drone company, which is also involving the surveillance. But I don't want to sidetrack you, so just remind me.
Okay. So last week, the Associated Press reported that U.S. technology companies had played a far greater role than previously known in enabling some human rights abuses by Beijing. Now, here's what the AP reports. Republican Josh Hawley of Missouri told AP he wanted to summon tech companies before Congress to address how their technology exports were used. Hawley, a longtime critic, boy, that's an understatement, of U.S. technology companies, bemoaned Silicon Valley's general lack of collaboration with Congress on that and sitting inquiries. And he says that those folks need to come in. He says, quote, I think eventually we're going to have to subpoena these people. So, Brad, as I read this, and you know more about this than I do, the general qualm is that U.S. companies are actively pitching their technology to China, and then China is using this technology to perform surveillance on their citizens and, according to critics, suppress human rights and even oppress people. So Hawley's like, look, you guys gotta get your you-know-what in here and answer these questions. And it's one of those issues that, as we've seen before, tech companies are a favorite whipping boy of Democrats, of Republicans, of conservatives, of populists, of progressives who are into human rights violations. So bad news for Zuck and even NVIDIA, and I think Dell was named in this. And then, Brad, you just mentioned a drone company. It's hard times for these tech companies.
You know, the sad part of this is, and I'm going to go against the grain when I bring this up, but we complain about the Chinese government spying on their citizens, but yet more and more every day, because I know what to look for, I see more and more of the flock cameras every day. And if you know what the flock cameras are.
Yeah, you've said it before, Brad. Before you go through an intersection, you use your one good eye, and you always spot the cameras. You walk into a store, you use your one good eye to spot the cameras.
The flock cameras are these cameras that sit on poles, on utility poles, on all sorts of things. Sometimes they put them in their own in the ground with their own pole. A lot of times they're on traffic signals, and it's a private company, I believe, out of Atlanta. And a lot of the police departments, a lot of the governments are using this. Private sector does as well, too. What it does is it's a automated license plate reader, ALPR, whatever they call it. And it goes back. The images are saved in a database, and it automatically identifies the car, pulls its license number. It does a cross-section. If you're on the public sector, the public sector meaning police, government, stuff like that, it automatically does a license plate search. It tells you who the owner of the car is and all this, and then they can tell the police are using it to track down criminals. But by the same token, it shows you and I were on I-70 at the Blanchette Bridge yesterday at 2:45 yesterday afternoon, and at 3:15 yesterday afternoon, and at 4:25 yesterday afternoon. Why were we there 3 times? And a policeman comes and knocks on your door and says, hey, you were on the Blanchette Bridge 3 times yesterday.
It says, why are you eating ice cream in the Schnucks parking lot for the 4th time this month?
So anyway, we'll talk about the DJI thing, which is sort of interesting as well, too. Okay, I've got a, John would say, banger of a Brad's Top 3 coming up. You ready?
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it, Brad.